Hey everybody. Hey dolls. Hey dolls. I hope you guys are doing great on this Friday. I have my sister, my YouTube, just the GOAT, Yasmine Williams Woods here with me. And if you have not been keeping up with everything happening this week, we have been collabing all week. We started on Tuesday. I dropped a video giving tips and advice for being a Christian single mom dating. Then on Wednesday, I was on Yasmine's channel and we talked about raising Black boys and racial reconciliation as part of her Black History Month series. Then yesterday, Yasmine dropped a video, which was really good, giving advice, having been a single mom and now being married, just tips and how she kind of worked through things. And now today we are having the live chat and discussion to answer you guys' questions or just, just chat things that we want to share with you guys. So Yasmine, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and plug where people can find you and connect with you before we get started.
Yes, for sure. And I am Yasmine Williams Woods. It's right there in the little box for you. But along with that, I am a whole hot mess, y'all, and me and multitasking. Oh my goodness. So I want to just get this video sent to my mama before she's like, where are you? I'm trying to find you. So excuse me for that, because that's what I'm trying to do on my phone now. But I am, above all of that, I am a woman of God. I create Christian content over on my YouTube channel. I encourage you to watch, like, share, subscribe, do all that. And you need to do that over here, y'all, because Daily Dale drops the gems. Okay. So if you haven't already subscribed, I'm so glad you're here, but go ahead and click the subscribe and click the like on this video. So you can find me on my YouTube channel. You can also find me on Instagram at Yasmine_Williams Woods and some other places, but just start there. Just start there.
So I'm excited. You guys have really been receiving the videos well, and it's definitely a hot topic. Dating in general in this life is hard, especially as time goes on. But when you're a Christian and then you're a Christian single mom, there's definitely new elements that you have to take into consideration. And so I want you to just kind of like give us your background of how it was for you being a single mom and dating in the church.
In the church. So we're going to skip to that part because for those of you who don't know my channel, I became a single mom at the age of 14. So I am a teen mom, a boy mom, a twin mom, a girl mom, a single mom, all the things. I've been every kind of mom, stay at home, working mom. I've been all the moms. It's something that I really love. But being that I became a mom so young, the church really wasn't part of it when I was 14 and whatnot. And even having my son with me in college, I really, I can't say that I was intentionally dating, but I definitely was dating in a way at all times that protected my relationship, that kept my relationship with my son sacred and as a priority. Because there are just certain things that I want for his life, that I want to be true for him. And so I had to ensure that my behaviors, my actions, my choices were in a line with the kind of life that I pray that my son continues to grow and to lead. What that meant is that the men around my son were most times friends before they were guys that I was dating. I wanted him to see positive Black male role models who were college educated, who were kind-hearted, who were loving, who were open-minded, who just were amazing. And so that was a big part of my dating or just my social life before Jesus, before the church, which is what you asked about. I think after really submitting my life to Christ as an adult, honestly, I really wasn't dating much. If I entertained a guy, then it was always when my son was at school or at football practice or something, because I just needed to. They knew my son. Most guys that I dated in that time had met my son through football, through, seeing me out, but they didn't get to see him. My son didn't get to see that guy or those guys in relationship with me, or as if they were dating me, because I just had to fill it out. I had to make sure, is this going to be what I need it to be? A lot of times they were involved with Josh, whether in school or in an extracurricular activity. So I didn't want to taint that relationship in the event that me and the guys didn't work out, which clearly we did not work out. Yeah, and then I met my husband, and so that just changed everything.
And I want to go back really quick before I move to the next question. You said like when you really committed your life to Christ, you weren't really dating. So was that intentional? Were you like on some, I'm just going to focus on Christ, or did it just life happen?
I think when you can maybe speak to this too. I know you shared a lot that you didn't date earlier. Like you just got into a season where you're like, okay, I'm ready to date. But when you first had Christian, it was like, nah, I'm just straight mama mode. And so when I submitted my life to Christ as an adult, I was straight Jesus mode. And immediately, you know, when things do or don't line up with the will of God. So I was open to dating. I definitely was always open. It just, I wasn't open to the men who were trying to date. Now, I entertained, you know, God forgive me. Mama got to do what a mama got to do. I entertained, I knew it could never develop into lifelong relationships or even long-term relationships.
Yeah, and I definitely will say, for me, getting pregnant with Christian was my kind of like coming to Jesus moment. I was already a believer beforehand, but that was what jolted me back into like, okay, I've been really wandering. Now it's time for me to get serious. And so with all that was happening, like you said, it was mommy mode and Jesus mode for me. Like, okay, now I got to birth this kid. I got to figure out motherhood. So that's just what it was. But I know for some people, it's like, okay, I'm just going to wait till God shows me my husband. And I just thought of a question related to that I'll ask in a little bit. So how did you stay encouraged and hopeful that you'd get married one day while you were a single mom? Was that something you thought about, or were you just like, if it happens, it happens?
I was never like, if it happens, it happens. I just, you know, it was going to happen. I felt like I was made to be a wife, just knowing, like, I'm a lover of love. My whole platform is on love lifted me. And you know that my mission statement is conquer life with courageous love. So all things love for me, romantic, platonic, spiritual, whatever. I just love love. So I always knew I would get married. I never lost the hope because, you know, while I wasn't submitted to Christ, I had grown up in church, and I knew that God didn't lie. God doesn't flake on his promises. So if he done told me that your girl gonna get married, then I'm just gonna get married. And maybe it's not this season. Maybe, you know, it's not this decade. It's not, you know, it's not this town. It's not this state. It's not this season. But trust and believe is going to happen, because I was so confident that in God and his promises. I also feel like I was never thirsty. It was like, oh, this is it. Oh, nah, this ain't it. Moving on.
That's good. And so do you think God reveals who our spouse is, like that is your husband type thing? Or do you think you just pray and seek and get discernment?
I think so. In that season where I was like, you know, I really wasn't dating because the options that were available didn't align with what I know Jesus said to me. In that time, I was completely sold out for Christ, like completely. All my extra time was spent in church, in his word, like studying the Bible, creating new friendships, being in ministry. Like I just was obsessed. You know how it is when you are like a deer thirsty for water. Like I was for Jesus, but not. So I just was like spending that time really getting to know Jesus. And as I got to know Jesus, I began to understand myself. You know what I'm saying? Once I know who created me, I know me. I know that Apple created this phone. So there are certain things I know about this phone just from the principle of who Apple is as a company and what they stand for. I know it's going to be quality. I know it's going to be whatever, all the things that come with Apple products. And so as I got to know God, it was just like that. It's like, oh, if that's who created me, if that's how he sees me, if that's how he feels about me, then like, I'm good. I'm great. I'm wonderful. I'm righteous. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And so as you understand God, you understand yourself, and you understand what is and is not for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in my experience now, I've been back in the dating scene since like September, October. And I really do think like God will give you that discernment. about who your spouse is. Like you said, like you will just know. For me, it's like a strong feeling. I know some people have said they've literally heard God say, like, this is your husband. I really think he will point it out to you. I really think he will, you know, because he's not a God of confusion. And like you said, too, we also know what does not align with his word.
Right.
And so a lot of times we entertain the wrong people because of that desperation and not getting to a place of like, you know what, I'm single, but that doesn't mean that I'm incomplete. Like I still have a purpose. I still have value. I still have something to bring to the table. So that's really good.
Okay. Yeah. And I didn't fully answer that question, but I totally agree with what you just said. And the thing is, so I feel like in knowing him, you'll know what is of him and what he wants for you. So when I met my husband, I just knew right away. You know, people say you get the feeling, but after our first date, I knew that was like, oh, this is going to be long term. Like this is about to be a real relationship, something I hadn't had in a long time. At that point, I wasn't even thinking marriage, but it was literally driving home from our first date. I was like, oh, this is real. This is adult. And then after meeting his family, I was like, oh, we about to get married. Like this is it. But that became clear. At that point, I could trust my heart because I had given my heart to God.
Yes.
I knew that he was going to guard it and not lead it astray.
Yeah. And that's so important. Like when you get to that place of just contentment in Christ, especially with relationships, nothing beats it. And I know I've had those who might not know me. I've had like a 5-year span. This month makes 5 years since I've been single. And that 5 years, I had to purge of a lot of stuff. Like I had been idolizing marriage. I had been idolizing a certain lifestyle as a mark of being more righteous or godly or being more of a woman. And so God had to purge me of like a lot of things and just get down to the heart of the matter. Like, am I good enough for you or not? Like if I'm not good enough for you, then marriage is not going to make a difference. Like because marriage does not doesn't blossom on its own. It takes work. You know, you have to have two individuals doing individual work and then work together as a couple. So yeah, God had to get your girl all the way together because I was a hot mess before that.
I love that you mentioned. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I love that you mentioned that it's work. It is work. So it's like if I'm just sitting around, I'm not doing any work now, then God is not about to give me a marriage so I can chop it and mess it up because like it's going to be work then. So I need to do the work now. Faith without work is dead. So if you got faith that God has promised you that you will be married, then you got to start doing the work now. Because when you get in that thing, it's a whole lot of work.
That's what I was going to say. Like I said that even on Tuesday on my video, it's like, do the work now because you don't know when he's going to come, sis. All right. You could be thinking, oh, I'll be single for like 3, 4, 5 years. He can come next week. You know, like you got to be starting to do the work.
Yeah, agree. Oh my goodness. I just lost my thought because you said something else that was good on like, he could come next week. For me and my spouse, we were engaged after 4 months of dating and we were married in 11 months. So it can just happen. I had just relocated. So I relocated to Tennessee in July of 2012 and I met my husband in November of 2012. I knew coming here that I wanted to like, all right, I'm really going to be intentional about relationships, but this wasn't that. I was just at church. I had just ended some I have a whole video on my channel on like how I was the one.
That was a good story too.
Y'all can watch that video and you'll get it. But you're right. He can just do it. And so you need to be ready. Be ye ready.
Yes. Be ready so you ain't got to get ready. Okay. So the next question is, people often say that God won't send us a husband until we aren't thinking about marriage. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I wasn't thinking about marriage when I met my husband. I mean, so for me personally, I think there is some validity to that, but God doesn't work on our norms, on our, the way we think, you know, his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not his thoughts. So for some people, they probably were thinking about marriage. For other people, they weren't thinking about marriage. So I don't think God fits into any this or that. Although a lot of people do say, as soon as I stopped caring about it and thinking about it, my man came. And that is, I mean, I don't think I was ever, no. Definitely in college, I was, which in my breakup video. Before that breakup, I was like thinking nonstop about marriage, but it still was another 6 years before I met my husband. So I went 6 years without thinking about marriage, and God then just popped them there. So I don't know.
Yeah. I would agree because even when I think back on my life, like all of my relationships, granted none of them were my husband, one was a fiance, but they all came about like when I wasn't thinking about it. Like when I was literally just on some, I'm gonna focus on me, just do my thing. That's when it came about. And even this instance now, it's the same thing. It's just like I'm cool, like I'm on the dating scene again, but I'm not thirsty for it. Right. So yeah, I would agree that there probably is some validity to it, but I would not promote it as something to do
about marriage. So
God, right. Like 5 steps to get engaged type stuff. Like
because the thing there is also when you are really focused on yourself, focused on your relationship with God. Satan is also like trying to send you somebody to distract you and to throw you. He doesn't want you focused on you. He doesn't want you focused on God. So sometimes it ain't God sending somebody, it's the enemy trying to get you to stop focusing on God and your personal growth. So I'm not going to package that as a like, as soon as you stop thinking about it, you're guaranteed God has created for you.
Exactly. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So what did you do to prepare yourself and your son for marriage while you were being a single mom, while you were still a single mom?
Yeah, I always, and I kind of talk about this in my video, that we got to date for the sake of ourselves. We are modeling a lifestyle for our children on what it looks like to put yourself first, to pursue the things that your heart longs for. And so though I was single for those years, there was never a point where I made it look like, oh, mom is never going to date. It's just you and mommy. You will forever have her, just like whatever you want, whatever you tell her to do, whatever is best for you. She's fully devoted to all things you and your way and all the things. Like, yes, I love my son, all of that, but he still was a child and I am still his mom, and we are two separate beings. So crazy about my son. All of my kids. I got 4 now. But you just have a special relationship with someone that has been a part of your life for so long, and especially during the season of singleness. So I think I prepared him because it was always an option. People are going to pursue your mother because
hello.
Like the Lord. Right. I mean, clearly people gonna like your mama. And I was always responsive. It was never like I was closed off or I was shut down from it. It's like, no, I'm gonna have a date, or oh, this gentleman is into your mom, etc. So I think it was always an option.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think sometimes, a lot of times as moms, particularly single moms, we do kind of shift into that position that you were saying, where it's like, I'm just fully devoted to you and I'm going to put myself completely on the back burner. And then you end up being, regretful or burned out, or, you're just kind of wondering like, dang, like, I wish I had somebody or whatever. So I feel like it definitely should still be an option, unless you are like convinced that marriage is not for you and like you are called to singleness, then that's a different story. But for most of us, I believe that we are called to be married. That's just my personal thing. And I feel like, you don't have to put yourself on the back burner because you have a child now. Will you have to work around some things and whatnot? Yeah, like you might not be able to be as spontaneous or super flexible depending on what your demands are, but you definitely can be dating and preparing your child or children for that and letting them know, like, at some point, mommy might very well have a husband and there's going to be another person here that is going to add to the family dynamic. So another thing too that you had said in your video that you dropped yesterday was that you believe that single mothers should introduce their child to whoever they're dating like earlier on in the process. So I know that goes against a lot of what people say. A lot of people, particularly in the church, say you should wait until you're engaged and then bring them around the child, or they might say a time frame like you should wait 6 months, a year. So would you say there's a time like, okay, after so many months you should bring them around, or do you think it's just kind of like depending on how the relationship is going?
Yeah, I like what you said in the comment that you left on that video of like, when somebody's pursuing you, they're going to know Christian because they're going to hear him on the phone, or he's going to grab the phone. They're going to have a conversation. So I feel like, every situation is different. Perhaps you feel as though, you know what, I'm not really ready for you to meet him, like for you to take both of us out on a date, or for us to take him to the park together and all that. I'm not trying to make this look like we a family unit, and we're not. I don't want to do that prematurely. But what I mean by allowing them to meet earlier on is something as simple as interacting with your child on the phone, or meeting your child at one of their games. Like, you could just be attending as a spectator, and that's a time for you and for the mom and the man to talk while the child is playing. But it shows that he's supportive. It shows that he's engaged. And after the game, your child could just be like, oh, hey, yeah, okay, cool. But it is telling to you of like, how did he respond when my son was crying in the background? Does he ask a lot of questions about my son? When my son hopped on the phone and was like, hello, did he try to have a conversation with him, even though he might only be 3 years old or whatever, right? I just think some form of interaction is necessary so that you can engage how he's going to interact, and so that he can see if he likes you, likes all of you. Because as I shared in the video, as single moms, there is no man who's going to get to know you if he doesn't know your child. Because I've been a single mom. I know that our children they're almost 90% of who we are. Like, it is like, I was a college student. I was in ministry. I was a teacher. I was like all these different things, but still 90% of me was Josh's mom. So if I was dating someone, I'm just not, we're never going to reach a point where we can be understanding of one another. You can really see who I am and appreciate who I am and celebrate who I am if you don't know my child. So I just feel like for me, I just felt it was necessary to meet early on.
And I agree with that. I was actually talking to my mom earlier this week, and I was like, any man dating me at this point, I would want him to meet me and Christian at like a public place to start. So like how you said the game, or I said Chuck E. Cheese in the conversation, because I was like, Chuck E. Cheese would allow me to not only see how you interact with Christian, but how can you handle the noise in Chuck E. Cheese? How can you handle when they don't want to leave and they're having a moment? Like, I want to see all of that, because it's not going to be picture perfect all the time. How do you handle me disciplining him and speaking stern, because I'm not cute and dainty when I'm disciplining, So it's like, I want to know like how you can handle all of this, particularly because the men that I date always say that they want children. So it's like, okay, get a taste of this right now. Like, this is an example of what it's going to be like potentially when you have if we get married and have children. So I definitely agree. Like, the older I've gotten and now being a single mother, that I think it's better to do it earlier on. But of course, follow your discernment. I wouldn't say like 2-3 dates in or whatever, but just kind of follow the flow, see how things are going. When you pretty much know that this person's going to be around, then like, that's a good time. You might not know they're going to be your husband, but you're like, okay, this is definitely, like you said, after the first date, like, this is definitely going to be long term. Time for you to start, get around my crowd.
Yeah, if like, after the first date, if you're like, oh, we definitely going on a second date, then you need to start thinking about, okay, so at some point he probably needs to meet my child. It's the way I see it. I love what you said about meeting in a public place. I actually, someone met Josh and I at an amusement park, and I had been talking to him for a little while. And this was his first time where he was going to meet my son and my nephews. And he was just like, oh, my clothes. Like, and it's like, oh, okay, no.
Yeah, like, that ain't going to work.
I need to know, how do you engage with kids in general? Like, that's important. Even at Chuck E. Cheese, are you like going to have fun and show him how to throw the basketball? Are you going to play the games with him? Are you going to let him win? Or are you going to get mad because he beat you? What you going to do? I need to know.
Slam dunking on the kids and stuff,
Right. And getting mad, like, he's 3, right?
Like, calm down,
Serious. Yeah.
I completely agree. So the next question is, what were some struggles you've had to overcome when you were transitioning from being a single mom to a married mom?
Yeah, and that takes me back to another point that you made about preparing my son for marriage. Like, yes, it was always an option, but I do just want to name that I wish I had. I wish I had taken the time to actually, when it was that time for proposal and all that, to have a conversation with him to see, like, okay, how do you feel about this? Do you know that this is going to mean that we're going to, all three of us are going to live together now, and our summers are going to look different. Our day, just like our lives. I wish I would have just had a conversation about the very specific things of how our life was going to be impacted and changed. And then deciding together which things we were definitely not going to give up and not change. Like, okay, we're always going to have mommy, son time. We're still going to do this, etc. I do wish I would have had that conversation. With that being said, to answer this question on things, on challenges that I faced making the transition, it's feeling in the middle. You know, my son was 9 when my husband and I, he turned 10 shortly after we got married. So we're talking about, you know, a full kid with his opinion, with his lifestyle, with his opinion. And I sometimes just felt in the middle because the conversations weren't had on, okay, this is with him, with my husband and my son. Okay, this is how I discipline. This is how I parent. This is how I engage at the dinner table. This is how I, you know, this is how I'm this comfortable with friends coming over, or just what, you know, just all the things of feeling like trying to marry the two worlds. And I was the person, you know, I'm the advocate on Josh's side, but then I'm the wife on my husband's side. And just, you know, I don't think any of them or either of them feel as though they put me in the middle, and they didn't. But as a single mom, having been a mom to my son with just myself, by myself for almost 10 years was just, you know, it was hard for me to mentally make the transition between, like, there isn't one or the other. We are one family, and everybody involved just has to get on board.
Yeah, and I know, like, even with, like you said, with the disciplining or things like that, I'm 100% in control of what goes on with Christian, because his dad's not in his life at all, for those who might not know me. And so it's something that I think about, like, just sharing that responsibility with somebody, making that transition to their opinions and their thought, like how did you maneuver that? Because I can see how a single mom might be like, you're not gonna tell me how to
Honey, it's hard. It is hard. But even now, you know, we have 3 biological kids together. So we have 4 kids total, 3 together. And even probably until a year ago, when Sean would do or say certain things to even the girls who are biologically his, I'm like, because I've never parented with someone else, because I have a similar situation as you, in that, you know, just with an absentee dad. So it's like, I don't share. Like, no. We don't talk like that. We don't do that. We don't. And it's, so I've had to understand, and even now with Josh, I've had to understand that God knows what is best for his children, my children that are ultimately his, that he has given me. And he knew that they needed a mama like me and a daddy like Sean. All my good and my bad, all his good and the bad. God created it to work it out for the good of my children. So I just have to trust that whatever Sean brings to the table is a balance. And it's what they would have been missing if I were just doing this by myself. So having to really trust God and allow him to help me trust my husband and his approach to parenting. And that's so helpful. And I have been able to just appreciate his approach and allow their relationships to prosper and to really highlight their relationship and, you know, support and what's the word I'm looking at? Support and, oh my gosh, foster their relationship. But it took a little minute because I did this for so long by myself. I must be doing something right because he this, and this. And it's like,
I'm telling you, I'm really thinking about that in my head. I'm just like, oh man, because I can be really particular about how things are done. So it's definitely a journey, especially when you've been used to doing it all on your own for so many years, to now introduce this person into your life and allow them to lead. Because I mean, a man that is really trying to be the man that God called him to be is going to have some yearning to lead and like take the burden off of you. So that it's just like you said, trusting God with that and understanding that it's all working together for what God needs it to work together for, and not allowing our ego or our pride or anything to get in the way, because that's just more stress. And who needs that level of stress, you know?
And it's a lie of the enemy. He wants to create discord and disconnection. He wants you to feel stuck in the middle like I felt. He wants you to look at your husband sideways because he's doing what God created him to do. That is all the enemy. So I just encourage any mom, Liz, like just trust God to do his thing. You know, God, Christian is God's child. And y'all, I had the comments on private, so I hadn't seen any of these. hello,
all the love.
Here. Yes, I've missed it. I'm here now, though. I see the comments.
That is hilarious. So the next question is, you mentioned in your video tips for dating as a single mom. We already covered that. So the meeting the children early, but I do want to elaborate a little bit on what that looked like specifically for you. I can't remember if you really elaborated on it in the video or not, but like, what was the moment for you where you were like, okay, you're going to meet Josh?
Yeah. So I say that, after our first date, I knew that like, oh, okay, this is going places. So our first date was we met on November 27th. Our first date was 6 days after that. Well, a couple of days after that, I was flying to Ohio for my mom's wedding. And so I was like, I probably had known him 10 days by this point. The exact winter wedding. Yeah, I had known him less than 2 weeks. And I was like, hey, take us to the airport or whatever. And so that didn't happen. But once we got back, he took us we went out to eat to Cheesecake Factory, and that was their first time meeting each other. But and with that, I just want to say, honestly, Sean wasn't ready 10 days after meeting me to meet my son. And I think like we have to know as single moms that like, that's okay. Give them space and respect them enough. It isn't like, oh, well, he don't want to meet my kids and he isn't ready. Not that. It's just that people just have to have time and space to do them and to be them. He knew about my son right away. I shared this in the video, but when we met at church. And so within the first minute, I was like, all right, I got to go get my son from church. So he had to know right away, like, I'm a mama. I'm a whole mama. I got a kid, a couple of those down and children. Yes. So he knew right away. We talked, anytime we talked, it was like, oh, well, today I had football practice. I had whatever, doing this with Josh. So he knew, and we'd had conversations about it. I was on board with the way he, reacted to me as a mom and how my relationship with my son. So when he wasn't ready, it wasn't like a deal breaker for me. And shortly thereafter, they were able to meet. Because I'd rather you be ready. He likes to plan things out and think things through. So it wasn't like, I don't want to just pick y'all up and throw y'all out of the car. But for me, I was like, I wanted to in case I got to end up saying, oh, this was a random person. This was an Uber drive.
Exactly. Like no harm, no foul.
Right.
So do you guys in the comments have any questions? Even if you're not a single mom, like feel free to ask questions just about dating in general. So I just thought of something else. What do you feel about dating sites for Christian, I'll say singles in general, but with a special focus on Christian moms?
Yes. I got all the thoughts, or I have some thoughts on that. I want to just add to your point to the to our ladies in the comments. We had our friends over at Obedience Podcast left a comment on my video, and she's like, I'm not a single mom, but I was raised by one. So even if you have a question based off your experience of being raised by a single mom, or you have something that you want to share, then definitely drop that in the chat too. Christians on dating sites. Like, I'm all about it. I am such a huge proponent of it. I was never on a dating site because, like, I met my husband in 2012. I don't think it was all that big at that point. And but I definitely would not have been opposed to it if I were in a single season. I try to encourage my friends all the time to get on a dating site. Everything is virtual now.
Yes.
Like Delle is my whole friend, and
okay.
I'm on digitalness, like on a digital space. So yeah, all things are virtual, all things are digital. So I think we have to get to the times and adjust to the times and go for it. I'm team dating websites for sure.
I agree. I actually know several couples who have met and gotten married from dating sites. My aunt is one of them, and she's a minister, and her husband been married 10 years. This year makes 10 years. So, that I've seen that in my family. I've seen that amongst close friends, and even sites that wouldn't be coined as a dating site like Facebook. One of my Facebook friends, she literally just got engaged on Valentine's Day, and her fiance met on Facebook. I think they met on the Facebook dating section, but still Facebook. So it's like, get out here. Like you said, everything's virtual. People aren't going out like they used to, even, with everything going on now. So I feel like, get out there, utilize it. God can literally let you meet somebody through any avenue. Like, don't box God in and be like, oh, it can only happen here or it can only happen there. For me, I've had experience with dating sites, both paid and free. I just say that I think from my experience, the paid ones yield better results, because I feel like when people are paying, they're going to come with a different attitude. You're still going to run into scumbags, but they're going to be a little bit more serious about it than like a free site. But I think it's helpful, particularly because as single moms, again, our time, it could just be stretched. You're working, you might have a side business, you got the kids, they got activities like ministry, all this type of stuff. So, not that you can't meet someone in person, but it's just a tool. I see it as a tool for you to meet people that you might not have met. What if your husband's in another state, like
which has, and then like we move around so much too, just as women. Like, I was new to this state. So I definitely, once I'd settled in, I would have joined a dating website for sure. And I also know, y'all, 3 couples come to mind when I think of dating websites, and all 3 of them are happily married. One couple in particular, there couldn't when you talk about match made in heaven, they are the essence of that. So I'm like, yes, it works, because these are 3 successful couples with beautiful families. They are like, they are successful couples, all 3 of them. And one was like, y'all were literally made for each other. Like, I don't know how does this happen except by God. So yes to the dating website.
Yes, I'm here for it. So I don't have any more questions. I mean, do you have any more thoughts or advice to share with single moms?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the whole meeting before meeting early, because I know, again, a lot of people disagree with that. You made a good point about just having discernment. And so let me also just name, I'm not saying, like, don't be reckless and crazy with that. On my first date with my husband, it was definitely a matter of, and I told y'all, go watch that video on how I knew he was one, but it was like, no, you can't pick me up at my house. I've enjoyed our conversations on the phone. I think this is going, like, I'm excited about the newness of our relationship or of our acquaintance at the time. But I still don't know you enough for you to be coming to my house, knowing my address, where I live, honey, because I had a son. I mean, because I needed to be protected too, but you definitely went about to know where my son lives. So that was just one of the ways that I was cautious earlier on. And I just want to reiterate, like, yes, be wise, be cautious, but also, like, don't waste your time or the other person's time by not giving them an opportunity to meet your child in some way.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And it's best to be safe than sorry. I don't like people knowing where I live early on, even before I had Christian. So definitely, you're meeting me at the establishment, wherever we're going, we can just call it a day and do that, because I have to, like, trust you for you to know where I live, because that's like my space. So if you know where I live, and let's say I'm like, okay, I'm not interested in you anymore, like who knows, like you could just go crazy on me or whatever. So it's just best to be safe, and also let someone know where you're going. You know, those kind of tips, like they're definitely trusted for sure. Like definitely use wisdom and have discernment.
Yeah.
Any more tips?
Yeah, no, but I do have some questions for you. I'm gonna throw you on the spot. It's just a couple.
Okay, no.
We are waiting. Us in the YouTube world are waiting for you to spill the tea on this dating that you are in. But you know, we're gonna wait patiently for it. But in the meantime, I do want to ask, what do you feel was the most effective thing you did dating as a single mom? And what's something where you like, man, no, I should not have done that?
Oh man. So the thing that I definitely should not have done was think that I have to be eager or like sell myself short, you know, because I went through so much like guilt and shame based on how it all happened. Because I was like, man, like not only am I pregnant, it's an absentee situation and this, that, the third, that I literally got to a point where I was just happy to have the attention of anybody. And I completely disregarded like just discerning feelings that God was giving me. Like, no, this is not it. Because not everybody was a hot mess. Some of them flat out toe up from the flow up, shouldn't even talk to them, you know? But there were like one or two where it was like, okay, you know, he looks promising, but it still was not the best fit. Like one of those people that if you got together, maybe you guys could have gotten each other off course, or it just wouldn't have been like the best thriving marriage or relationship. So definitely had to work on that. Like just understanding that I'm not my past experiences. I'm not the sum of my past experiences. Like they all are happening, or they all have happened for a reason, and they made me who I am today. And so, because when you have that mindset about yourself, like if you don't truly see yourself the way Christ sees you, that will show up in your energy. Like when you're talking to someone, you can be trying to be confident, but they'll be able to tell you're not really confident. They'll be able to tell like there's something lacking. So, you know, had to work on that. The one good thing that I did, or that I'm doing, I could say now, is just not allowing myself to get overcome by fantasy of like the future. Because, you know, women a lot of times, we're hopeless romantics. We love, you know, we're thinking about all this type of stuff, about the marriage and all that. So I think for me, it's just reminding myself to stay level-headed. Like until the ring is on my finger, I'm still single. So exactly. So it's nice to enjoy the person, go out, have fun, you know, be yourself, but don't allow your mind to roam into like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and fantasize about our wedding day all day, every day. I'm gonna fantasize about being married and, you know, just doing the absolute most. I also will say that one thing I've started doing recently, because I saw another YouTuber is doing this, and it was part of her journey on her way to meeting her husband, is writing a husband journal. So one of the things that kept me from doing stuff like that was that I never really wanted to be attached to, like I said, the thoughts and the fantasies of like, okay, I'm going to write this journal to my husband. I'm going to write these prayers to my husband. Because in the back of my mind, it's like, I knew I always wanted to be a wife, like ever since I was a little girl. And now I know I'm called to it. Like in the last year, it's been confirmed for me. But in the back of my mind, it was like, what if it doesn't happen? So I love what you said earlier about really believing God's promises. Because it's like, if it never happens, I done sat here and wrote books of prayers and journal entries. And where he at? Like, I have no one to give it to. So I just never did it. But when the YouTuber shared her journey and how it helped her, not so much on I'm doing this because I know he's going to come, but I'm doing this to keep me grounded so that I'm not tempted to go out and just date random people. I was like, I like that perspective. So I started doing that, and that's helped me a lot, just to share my heart with my husband and give it to him on our wedding day. So he'll be able to see like the journey that I
so romantic, girl. I know about the birthday journal. And on our 10th year anniversary, we're about to this year make 8 years, so I got some time. On our 10th year anniversary, I am giving him this journal. Love it. I'm here for it. I'm gonna be taking notes because I got all the things to say after this. Jamie, so glad to hear. Okay, keep going though.
Yeah, so I share everything in it. I share like days, and I don't write in it every single day, but any day where I feel like I just have something on my heart, like I'm really thinking about him, or I'm wondering what he's doing, or maybe I have some fears about who I'm going to be as a wife, I write it in the journal. Like I'm fearful that I won't be able to really be a helpmeet for you, or I'm fearful about this, even just like romantic stuff. Like I'm looking forward to us going on a date and doing, like, it's literally documenting my journey to meeting him. So by the time the wedding day comes, he'll be able to read it like a book. Like, wow, okay, this is where she was at, or this is what she went through, or wow, she was thinking of me this much, or praying for me. Like, so it's really been stretching my faith to just to really believe God and trust God, like you said, because I was holding myself back, because I was always like, it might not happen, and then like
that doubt is real. It's like, no, and it is a trick of the enemy. God has made promises to us, and we just gotta act on the promises. I've been recording all day, so forgive me if y'all hear some of this later in the video. But we say the video is like how to draw closer to God, and a lot of times we feel far from him because we're not seeing the things that we've talked about with him. We don't see his promises. We don't see no way a husband is ever going to show up and we're going to become this wife that God has said we're going to be. But we got to keep acting on his promise. We walk by faith, not by sight. And I got faith in God. I got faith in what he said to me. So I'm just going to act on that.
Yes. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. And it's really just renewed like my faith in Christ in that way too. Because when I tell y'all, like, I don't know if some of y'all saw the video or not, but I think I talked about it a few weeks ago. And in October, that feeling hit me. Like that's when I knew, like, I was reminded and honestly had 100% assurance that I'm called to be a wife in last October. Because I was in my parent devotional, and it's just like this feeling came over me, and I really felt like God was telling me, like, you are going to be a wife. You are going to get married. So it's time for you to prepare yourself, open your heart up again, trust me in the process. So now that I have that level of assurance, the events that have occurred since October have been crazy. And like y'all said, like, you've been waiting for the tea, but my faithful Delle dolls have been knowing what's been going on, but it's progressing and it's looking very promising and stuff. So at this point, it's just about discernment and making sure, like, timing and all of that. But I know no matter what, I'm going to be someone's wife. It's just a matter of, am I going to be your wife or somebody else's wife?
Right.
That's just where I'm at right now.
I absolutely love it. So I have a few things I want to respond to. I love that brought up other questions. Because you are like a wealth of wisdom. So I just want to make sure everybody gets all the knowledge.
Thank you.
But I love what you said about, you have to reach a point where you realize you are not the sum of your past, and you have to realize that you are valuable. I think there's so much necessary encouragement there, because it's like, I love God. We are watching this video because we are Christian women, right? And so as a Christian, I love God. I know he loves me. I know he forgives me of my sins. I know that's why he died on the cross. I get it. Yet we don't always walk in it, because if I claim to have received his forgiveness, I know that there's no record of my wrongs. There's he doesn't keep a slate of everything I've done. So we have to give ourselves the same freedom that God has given us in dating, in relationships. For me, that showed up for me, and tell me your thoughts on this. Whenever I would go out on a date with as a single mom, I felt that I needed to pay for myself.
Yes, I've struggled with that a lot. Even with the guy that I'm getting to know now, we had a conversation about that, and he was just like, "Why do you offer?" And I'm just like, I mean, to be honest, like, I felt like this was me proving my worth, like I could bring something to the table. Yep. And it was kind of a safety mechanism too. Like, okay, in case he rejects me, I don't feel like he's going to feel like, oh, she owes me something because I paid for all these dates or whatever. Like, it was just all these thoughts.
Right. I needed to prove that, like, don't get it twisted. I am a single mom, but I don't need your money. I'm not in this dating situation with you because I want you to provide for me and my son. I want you to know that, like, I got it. I am a provider. I can handle it. And it's like, we don't have to prove ourselves. God is not fearfully and wonderfully. God, when I was a whole hot mess, because God knew the end from the beginning, he still sent his son Jesus to say, I
Yes.
was worth the life of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
That's how much God says I am worthy. So why would I ever feel like I need to prove to you if God already knows I'm great?
Exactly.
No. So yeah, I just wanted to go back to that because I definitely dealt with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like feeling like I needed to prove my value that it's already been paid for.
And you know, we live in that type of society now where it is that, like, let's be honest, you know, a lot of times, and this is why I strayed away from this topic on YouTube for so long, because I swear the minute you put anything that has to do with single mother, I used to get so many spammy comments like insulting me and other single mothers that follow me, like, you're not a single mom, you're a baby mom, and you're the reason your community's failing, and da-da-da-da. And so I'm just like, this is nothing but the enemy, you know? So I had to put filters in place to block it. And eventually I was like, you know what? I really feel God is calling me to encourage single moms, because so many of us do not see our worth. So many of us feel like we have to sell ourselves short, or we have to prove, like you said, like, I got it, I don't need anybody. And it's like, it's okay to need help. It's okay.
Right. Yeah.
It's okay. You know, it's okay to want companionship. You don't have to prove yourself. Like, Christ died on the cross for us, and that is my worth. Just because I might not be married right now, and I might have a child or children, or might not be, you know, wearing a certain designer label or living in some sort of house or whatever, that doesn't mean I'm any less than, you know. And it's like society really trashes on single moms and has their confidence just in the trash.
Yep, they most certainly do. Even when I was preparing for our video, you know, I was trying to search for tags so I could have the SEO on my video.
Yes.
And, or optimize it. And so I typed in single moms, and like all the things came up. Why you shouldn't date single moms, 10 things you need to know about, or why you need to avoid single moms, all these things. I'm like, oh my goodness, like stop with it.
And not to mention, when I got back in the dating scene, the first attempt back in like 2017, I had so many men, because at this point I was like, I'm going to abstain until marriage. You know how many men told me?
Next question, but
you know how many men told me, like, well, that's dumb. You already have a child. Now you want to walk holy. Now you want to abstain. Like, you might as well just be out here, because who says that you even deserve to have that standard? Like, legit, I'm on a date and they're telling you. You know, to my face. And I'm just sitting there like wanting to cry because I'm still low-key hormonal, like Christian Young. And then I'm just like, wow, like, I really am seen as trash out here. Like, you know, they really just do not see my worth. And then they expect sexual favors. And it's like, come on, like, I took you out on a date. Like, what you gonna do for me type of thing. You should be glad I paid you any attention. And I was just like, oh no.
Yeah, there's so many assumptions about single moms and expectations. Like, you must be loose. You must, like, obviously, and it's like, no. And then we, if we don't take that time to get to know God, as we were talking about early in the conversation, and who He is and what He says about us, then we will give into that of like, well, yeah, they're right. I do, like, I need, if I'm gonna ever be with someone, I need to give into their expectations. It's like, no, not at all. Which, okay, so that took me to the first question. I want to make sure I'm getting all my little notes that I've taken.
Yes.
As a single mom, how do you handle, as a single mom who's a Christian, how do you handle sex?
I am not having it.
How do you make sure that happens? What do you do to ensure that you are remaining sexually faithful to God in your single season?
So down here, you know, the Lord is faithful because He brought me to Georgia and then COVID hit. So I don't know nobody down here. You know, even the dude I'm getting to know, it's like, this is great. You know, you have a walk with God, and it gave me that sanctification period. But before, when I was in Virginia and DC, I had to take drastic measures. So I had to have an accountability partner, someone that you can literally call in the moment and be like, I am 2 seconds from having sex, or I'm 2 seconds from going to someone's house and, you know, wanted to do this or that, and they can pray for you. Where, and this person in particular that I had, we would do this often, even if it wasn't necessarily engaging in the activity, but maybe being tempted to watch pornography or anything like that. We would literally call each other a text and be like, I'm tempted to do this. Or if we did stumble, then it's like, hey, can you pray for me? So that was one thing. That accountability partner is important, but it's got to be someone you trust that can keep your confidentiality, because you don't want your business all up and down the street, you know? And then another thing I did was just practical measures, like not going out at night by myself with this guy, not going anywhere private, because you're going to be tempted if it's in a private location, especially if you're really physically attracted to one another. And honestly, if I felt like it was becoming a real big stumbling block. I just did not date because I'm like, I don't even trust myself enough to go out and not be tempted to stumble. So I'm just not even going to entertain. I'm going to just focus on me and do that. And so after like a year of doing that, it got a little easier. And then by like the second year or so, it wasn't as bad. And the thing is, the enemy is so crafty. Let me fix this blind, y'all. Sorry. The enemy is so crafty because he will send people that fit all your preferences, like the tall, handsome, my case tatted up. You know, I love me some tats.
When you said that on one of your videos, I was like, oh, or live. I was like, oh, okay.
Like, and the funny thing is, this guy now, he ain't got no tats, but he working on it though. So your prayers are working. But you know, it's just like the enemy will send exactly what you want, everything down to the letter, and you'll be like, "Oh man, this got to be it." And if you're not rooted and you're not like tethered to the cross, you can really find yourself doing things that you said you would never do again, because we let our preferences deter us a lot of the time. You can meet a guy who's really like strong in the Lord and be like, okay, he's not as cute as I wanted, or he's not as tall, or he doesn't have a beard or whatever. And you'll find all these excuses because he doesn't fit your preferences. But the minute they fit your preferences, you will definitely find yourself being more tempted to compromise if you don't actually do it.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. You mentioned that you it was like if it got too out of control, you were just like, nah, I'm just not gonna date. I just want to take a moment to admire that, because that really was an act of dying to yourself, which in your single season, there's a lot in your life, period, every day. But specifically, most relevantly, definitely in your single season, you got to die to your desire for marriage. You talked about like making marriage an idol and dying to your expectation, but you were so selfless in your pursuit of Jesus as like, God, I want to live holy and pure and righteous way much more than I want a relationship. And I like that. It just needs to be highlighted for the moms who are listening, or just any single woman who's listening, to know that, you know, you got to want to glorify God so badly that you're willing to give up anything that puts you at risk of not doing that. I got another question. I know we are nearing an hour, but before I state the question, just y'all, I'm taking these notes. So, you talked about like ultimately the boundaries that you had in place. And I love it, because often nobody's going to respect our boundaries if we don't respect them. Somebody can't break your boundary. You are the only person that gives access beyond your boundary or permission for your boundary to be broken. You are in control. But if you hold to your boundary, then that just is what it is. And just your consistency did that. I can't fully read my notes. Here's the question. This guy is God fearing, he has a relationship with God. What advice can you give a single mom or a single person when looking for a Christian man? What makes a man a Christian? Because I talked about this in my video, and we got all these different variations, but what's the core? What's at the heart of a Christian man? And ladies, feel free to put your thoughts in the chat as well.
Yeah. So I would say for me, it really boils down to a few things. One, is he actually a disciple and follower of Christ? Because there's a lot of people that say I'm a Christian, but they not even really tight with God like that. And I mean, that's your walk. That's cool. But as for me and my house, I need you to be a disciple, meaning that you are dying to your flesh on a regular basis. You are regularly in your word. You have your own walk with God. You have your own prayer life. You hear from God in your own time. You're not necessarily just always looking for someone else to give you nuggets or a word or wisdom. You're growing every day. You're aware of the fact that you need God. Not super like churchy, and you ain't got to be the next upcoming pastor or bishop or none of that. But I'm just saying, like, you got to be in it. I'm
committed to Christ.
Yeah. Because it's like, one thing about me is like, and a lot of people that I know, man and woman, is that you will just catch us serving Christ. Like, I should be able to just catch you following Christ. Meaning, if you walk into my house, you might just catch me in worship. You might just catch me in prayer. You might just catch me watching a sermon or reading the word. Like, it should be something like that, you know? And so I should be I should be able to see that mark where it's like, I can literally just catch you doing it. And it's genuine. You know, you can tell when someone's doing it for show or not. Another mark of a godly man to me is someone who has that desire to lead, but is a humble and servant leader. Because I don't remember exactly what the quote says or who made the quote, but there's a quote that's something like, if you want to be a leader, you have to master being a servant, or something like that to that effect. And I completely agree with that, because it's like, a lot of times, you know, we could have a whole nother live stream about the submission talk and whatnot. You know, that's something I'm even trying to get my mind wrapped around. We gonna have a we're gonna bring you back to talk about submission and so, you know, it's like a lot of times I'll hear men say like, yeah, she got to submit to me, I'm the leader, I'm the man, rah rah rah. But it's like, are you willing to submit to God, and are you willing to serve? Because being a leader is not just all about power and you submit to me and you worship me. You have to be aware of what the people that are following you need, the people that are submitting to you need, the things that are important to them, the things that they're passionate about, the things that they might not even be aware of, that you are just anticipating like, okay, they're gonna need this. Like, it's not an easy task. So I think a man that's actually taking those steps in his life now in little ways, whether it's like through a ministry or in his own like family and friends life or through work, like, you'll be able to kind of tell if a man's serious about that and if he really is a servant leader or if it's just an ego trip thing for him. And another thing for me, I'm trying to think. I had the thought and now I lost it because I'm like really trying to narrow it down. But yeah, I would say those are the two most important. If I think of the other one, I'll say it. But those are the two that I could really think of off the top. That's like, this is a godly man.
Yeah, I love it. Well, though I don't have any more questions. I just think you are rocking out motherhood. You are rocking out motherhood in your season of singleness, and you're just such a inspiration, such, like I said, a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. So I love it. I love all things that you exude.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be letting y'all know. And like I said, we now that I mentioned it, I really feel like we need to have a live about submission. I know you've done videos on it, but I really feel like we need to have a live because you have a lot of experience and you're very real in your delivery. And so I appreciate that, you know.
Yeah. Let's do it. I might need a year to go work on it. Then I'll come back with how it goes.
But that's it for the live. If you guys have any questions, you could ask it. If not, can you just close us in prayer, Yasmine?
Yes, for sure. And if you have not watched Delle's video that dropped on Tuesday about dating as a single Christian mom, do that. And then watch my video that aired on Thursday on the same topic. And then we were live on my channel on Wednesday, as Delle mentioned early on, about raising Black boys. So watch that. And thank y'all so much for tuning in, watching this. Rondell prayed so beautifully and powerfully for us prior to us starting the live. So know that you have been prayed over, and we will continue to pray over you. Dear God, Father, friend, comforter, miracle worker, we love you. We thank you for you, God. I thank you that you do not make mistakes. You do not make missteps. And though we are in situations where we are single moms, you are still God. You are still great. You are still a provider. You are still a promise keeper. And I just thank you right now for your sovereignty, for your omnipotent and rich love, Father God. Thank you for loving us. I pray for every woman who's watching or who will watch. And I pray for the women and children connected to her, God, that they would feel your power, that they would know your peace, that they would feel your comfort, that they would be confident in every promise that you have given them. And they would go forth into their dating seasons with with a full understanding of who they are as women of God, that they are valuable, that they are worthy, that they are loved, that they are cherished. I pray that they will not settle, that they would not feel that they are the sum of their past, but whether they would pursue relationships that fully acknowledge that they are fully forgiven, that they are fully known and fully seen by you, God. I pray your love over their relationships and over their future marriages, God. May they be confident as they move forward, God. May they date with wisdom, with knowledge, with discernment, with you at the forefront of everything that they do. May they seek you first, God. It is in the mighty name of Jesus that I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, sis, for joining. This definitely won't be the last collab, y'all. Like, I love collabing with Yasmine. So make sure you are subscribed to her channel, Yasmine Williams Woods. Follow her on Instagram, Yasmine. I think it's Yasmine_Williams Woods. And just all the things, plug into all of her projects and everything. Show some love and support. Okay. So, and also she has a YouTube club membership thing. So you want to plug that really quick?
Yeah, so you can just join, you can become a member of my channel, and there are various perks, all the way from like you just get basic emojis that are unique to the channel that you can use and access. You get updates that other people don't get and access to extra content, all the way up to there are some coaching, some group coaching services, all of that. But you know, membership start at like $3 a month. It's really just a way to be connected with me in a different way, have access to me in a different way, and also just grow my ministry, support the growth of my ministry.
Absolutely. So make sure you check that out. And then, of course, if you're not following me on Instagram, sis, I need you to do that ASAP. Like, get your entire life together and follow me on Instagram at Delle_Delle, or if you want business coaching at Rondell Martin, and all the things business on that page, all the things lifestyle, motherhood on Daily Delle. And I will be making announcements as far as my services on my business page on Instagram. So definitely stay tuned to that so you can be in touch. But other than that, thank you for joining, and thank you all the ladies watching. I hope you got something for this. Please share this with your single friends, particularly your single mom friends, so it can encourage them. And I will see you guys next week. And thanks for the support.
Bye, y'all. Thank y'all. Love you, Yemi. Bye.
Bye, y'all.